Hi everyone! I will present my report about review of related literature and studies. Let's start with what is related literature. Related literature, it is composed of discussion of facts and principle to which the present study is related. For instance, if the present study deals with drug addiction, literature to be reviewed or surveyed should be composed of materials that deal with drug addiction. These materials are usually printed and found in books, encyclopedias, professional journals, magazines, newspapers, and other publications. And these materials also classified as local. If the materials are printed in the Philippines and considered as foreign if it printed in other land. Then, then related studies. Studies, inquiries, or investigations already conducted to which the present proposed study is relate or has some bearing or similarity. They are usually unpublished materials such as manuscripts, theses, and dissertations. Related studies materials also classified as local if the inquiry was conducted in the Philippines, and foreign if materials are or was conducted in foreign lands. Then let us proceed with importance, purposes, and functions of related literature and studies. A survey or review of related literature and studies is very important because such reviewed literature and studies serve as a foundation of the proposed study. This is because related literature and studies guide the researcher in pursuing his research venture. Reviewed literature and studies help or guide the researcher in the following ways. Number one, they help or guide the researcher in searching for or selecting a better problem or topic. By reviewing related materials, a replication of a similar problem may be found better than the problem already chosen. Replication is the study of research problem already conducted but in another place. So number two, they help the investigator understand his topic for research better. It will give the researcher a clear point of view about the problem. Then, number three, they ensure that there will be no duplication of other studies. There is a duplication if an investigation already made is conducted again in the same locale using practically the same respondents. This is avoided if a survey of related literature and study be made first. Then we have number four. They help and guide the researcher in locating more sources of related information. This is because the bibliography of a study already conducted indicate references about similar studies. Then we have number five. They help and guide the researcher in making his research design especially in, we have A2J. A, the formulation of specific questions to be researched on. Then B, the formulation of assumptions and hypotheses if there should be any. Then C, the formulation of conceptual framework. And D, the selection and application of methods of research. E, the selection and application of sampling techniques. F, the selection and or preparation and validation of research instruments for gathering data. Then we have G, the selection and application of statistical procedures. H, the analysis, organization, presentation, and interpretation of data. I, the making of summary of implications for the whole study. Then last, we have J, the formulation of the summary of findings, conclusion, and recommendations. Number 6, they help and guide the researcher in making comparison between his findings of other researchers on similar studies with the end in view of formulating generalizations or principles which are the contributions of the study to fund of knowledge. Then let us with characteristics of related literature and studies. There are certain characteristics of related materials that make them of true value. Among these characteristics are number 1, the survey materials must be as present as possible. This is important because of the rapid social, economic, scientific, and technological change. Findings several years ago may be of little value today because of the fast-changing lifestyle of the people. But there are exemptions. However, treatises that deal on universals or things of more or less permanent nature may still be good today. There are mathematical laws and formulas and statistical procedures that had been formulated a long time ago, which are being used today with a very little improvement. This is also true with natural and physical laws. Book on this, though written a long time ago, are still being cited today. Another exemption is when a comparison or contrast is to be made between the conditions of today and those of a remote past, let's say 10 or 20 years ago. Naturally, literature and studies about that remote past have to be surveyed and reviewed. Then we have number 2, materials reviewed must be objective and unbiased. Some materials are extremely or subtly one-sided, either political, religious, or etc. Comparisons with these materials cannot be made logically and validity. Distorted generalization may result. Then we have number 3, materials surveyed must be relevant to the study. Only materials that have some bearing or similarity to the research problem at hand should be reviewed. Then number 4, surveyed materials must have been based upon genuinely, originally, and true facts or data to make them valid and reliable. There are cases where fictitious data are supplied just to complete a research report, like thesis or dissertations. Of course, this kind of deception is hard to detect and to prove. Thus, this is a real problem to honest researchers. Then we have number 5. Review materials must not be sufficient enough to give insight into the research problem or to indicate the nature of the present investigations. They may also depend upon the availability of related materials. Sometimes there is a paucity of such materials. Ordinarily, Form 10 to 15 related materials are needed for a master thesis and from 15 to 25 for a doctoral dissertations, depending their availability, as well as their depth and length of discussions. For an undergraduate thesis, from 5 to 10 may do. The numbers, however, are only suggestive and not imperative for mandatory. These are only the average numbers observed from theses and dissertations surveyed by the author. Then let's proceed with sources of related literature and studies. The sources of related literature and studies may include the following. 1. Book, encyclopedias, almanacs, and other similar references. 2. Articles published in professional journals, magazines, periodicals, and other publications. Then we have number 3, manuscript, monographs, memoirs, speeches, letters, and diaries. Number 4, unpublished theses and dissertations. Number 5, the constitutions, laws, and statutes of the land. Number 6, bulletins, circulars, and other emanating from government offices and departments, especially from Office of the President of the Philippines and the Department of Educations, Cultures, and Sports. Then number 7, records from schools, public and private, especially their reports of activities. Number 8, reports from educational seminars. Number 9, official reports of all kinds, like educational, social, economic, scientific, technological, political, etc., and from the other government and other entities. Then let us proceed with where to locate the sources of related literature and studies. Generally, the sources of related literature and studies are located in the following places. Number 1, libraries, either government or private school libraries. Number 2, government and private offices. Number 3, the National Library. Then number 4, the library of the Department of Education's Culture and Sports. And let us proceed with the sample of literature review using APA format. In the sample of literature review, you will see the introduction, body, and of course, the conclusion. And of course, you can see the references list at the end of the paper where it will include entries for each publications discussed in the literature review. And that will be all. Thank you for listening.